Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Angel. Today we're going to be doing some high-end inspired DIYs. This project is inspired by these iron embossed butterfly wall art pieces from Antique Farmhouse. To start this project, I just grabbed a scrap piece of wood. This is actually just a piece of wood I found at the thrift store. I'm just going to use some of my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, and I'm going to go over this with a pretty heavy coat, just one coat for now. And after I add the butterflies, then I'll do a second coat. For the butterflies, I grabbed some of these stencils that I got from Amazon. It comes with a large pack of just different butterflies in it. So I chose 3 that I really liked, and I'm going to start by taping one of those down to the bottom, and then I'm going to use some of this Dollar Tree spackling and my little Cricut spatula. I'm going to spray some water down in that spackling. I want it to be a paste consistency, and then I'm going to use that spatula and smooth this out over the butterfly stencil. And if your spackling is too dry, it won't spread as easily, but if you've got the right consistency, it should just kind of spread like butter, and you want to make sure that you are covering that entire stencil with pretty much an even layer, or as even as possible. Once I was finished, I just very carefully and slowly removed the stencil. For the top and the middle one, I actually made it a little bit easier on myself. I cut those stencils down just a little bit to make them fit evenly, and then I was able to tape those together and then just add a few little pieces of tape here and there where the board was showing through, and I spread the spackling over both of those at the same time. Then just like before, once I had it spread out evenly, I just very carefully removed both of those stencils. Then I just let that dry for a few hours until the spackling had hardened. And I'm going to go over this entire thing with one more coat of that Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster. And as I'm going over this, I am just being very gentle over the spackling. After the chalk paint dried, then I'm going to go in with some European Gold Rub and Buff and a little brush, and I'm just going to kind of highlight over the butterflies in certain areas, and also around the board I will just do the edging with this Rub and Buff. This project is inspired by these mini easels. I've been seeing these everywhere, and I adore the small little easels. So I just picked this one up from the Dollar Tree in the craft section, and this one was a little bit too tall for what I wanted. I really wanted a shorter, even smaller easel than the inspiration. So I'm going to take this all apart, and I ended up cutting down all of my pieces just a little bit, not too much. This one was about 12 inches, and I probably cut it down maybe 3 or 4 inches. That's totally optional. If you like the larger size, that's fine as well. But like I said, I just wanted mine a little bit smaller. And also, instead of leaving mine plain, of course, I wanted to add some pretty details. So I'm just using this little decorative wood piece that I got from Amazon, and I'm going to put that on the top of my easel. And then this little handle I've had in my stash for a while, I want to add that to the front piece where the painting or whatever you sit will sit on top of. But before I put it back together, I am going to make this a bronzy gold color. So I started out with a coat of black chalk paint, and then I'm going to go over all of my wood pieces with some European Gold Rub and Buff once the black paint is dry. Then it was time to just assemble everything. I used wood glue to attach that decorative wood piece to the top, and then I just drilled a hole through the little stand part to add my handle. This project is inspired by these dried floral cloches from Anthropology. I picked up a little candle holder from the thrift store, and then the cloche piece is actually just one of those from Dollar Tree. And it fit perfectly on this candle holder, so I thought I could make a little floral cloche with this. I'm going to be using some of my air dry clay, and I want to make a flower frog to go inside of this candle holder so that I can just put those flowers right in there. So I'm just balling up a piece of clay that will fit down in that candle holder. I rolled it around into that ball shape, and then I'm going to put it down inside of the lip of the candle holder. Once I have it in there, I'm going to kind of smush it down to make a dome shape with it, and then I'll go around all of the edges and just kind of smooth those out lightly with my fingers. I'm going to make a larger center hole in the flower frog with a pencil and just kind of push it down in there, and then I'm going to wiggle it around a little bit to make that a larger hole. And then for the smaller holes, I'm just using a smaller little paintbrush, and I'm going to go around and put a couple more holes in this. Then I'll just let that dry overnight. By the next morning, it was almost completely dry, so I was able to remove it from the candle holder. Now, I want to kind of make this look more like the inspiration, so I'm going to start out by painting this candle holder with a couple coats of my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, and then I'm going to give this candle holder a wood look. So once it's completely dry, I'm just going to go in with this chippy brush and some antiquing wax, and I'm just going to use that brush and move that wax back and forth to make this look like wood. And I'm kind of doing this a little bit quickly because I want that antiquing wax to stay wet for a little bit. That way I can just really move this antiquing wax around. I'm not pressing very hard with my brush, just kind of gliding it over the antiquing wax. Now, like I said, I wanted the antiquing wax to stay wet because I wanted to darken it up a little bit. And in case you don't know, if you want to darken up your antiquing wax, you can actually just use a little bit of black chalk paint, dip that same brush in there, and just kind of mix the antiquing wax with the black chalk paint. So I'm just kind of dipping back and forth between the antiquing wax and the black chalk paint to darken this up. And also, this is going to give you a variation of color in your wood look. And once it was completely dry, I just popped my flower frog back into the top of the candle holder. And then I'm using some of these dried flowers that I got from Amazon. I absolutely love these. It comes with a ton of them. I'll have them linked in my storefront, but there's tons of different options. So I just picked out a few that I liked and started putting them down into my flower frog. Then I just sat my cloche top down on top of there. This project is inspired by this rustic wood cookbook stand from Antique Farmhouse. I just really loved the older wood, and I found this sign at my local thrift store. Now, of course, this front part is already painted, but when I flipped this sign over, it had this gorgeous wood. I removed the hangers from the back of it, and then I just cut this down to the size that I wanted. I also ended up cutting off a little piece from the extra part of it, and this is going to be the kickstand for the back of it. Since this back part was already painted, I'm not too concerned about it. No one is really going to see this backside, so all I'm going to do is go over where it was already painted black and just try to stay within those lines. Use some of my black chalk paint to just cover that. Now, this wood is gorgeous as is, and you could just leave it, but I wanted to add just a little pretty detail to the front of it. Nothing super crazy to cover up the wood detail, but I did want to add this little floral stamp kind of in just two corners of it. And I got this stamp from Amazon, and I'm just using my archival ink. Now, because this board does have a lot of texture in it, I'm not using a stamping block. I'm just using my fingers and my hands to kind of press in all of those details. So I just did a little bit on the bottom corner, and then on the top corner, you can kind of see I left the stamp hanging off a little bit. And because this wood has variations of color and lots of texture, this is a really subtle little decorative piece to it. Now, instead of cutting another piece of wood for the bottom part and doing this handle the way that it was done from the inspiration, I just decided to use the handle itself as the bookrest. And I actually got this handle in a pack of, I think, 10 from Amazon, and I just had it left over from a project I did in my foyer. To attach it to the board, I'm just using a masking tape hack. I just broke off a piece of masking tape that was about the size of my board, and then I'm gonna mark where those holes are. I'll measure and make sure everything's centered, then pre-drill my holes so that I can screw this handle in. Then to finish it off, I just need to add the little kickstand handle. And I forgot to mention, I did cut this at a 45 so that it would kind of lean back a little bit. I'm just using some wood glue to start to attach this, and then I just added in a screw through there into the board. And that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.